Hi, I'm Jesse at Strobepro.com, and today I'm going to be showing you the Litemons LA200 daylight and bicolor version. Now you might notice that this doesn't have Godox all over the box like normal. That's because Godox is trying to promote this Litemons brand as kind of a new line. They're trying to expand internationally, get more market share, and so this is a little bit less expensive option if you're looking to get into an LED light. Now, even though it's less expensive, it still has a lot of features and it's really a top quality light actually. So it might be a great option for you. Let's take a closer look and see what they're all about. There's a couple differences between the two lights which might help make up your mind which one to purchase. The daylight version is balanced at 5600 degrees Kelvin, so it's just daylight all the time. So if you're throwing light on a subject, you don't need to change that light temperature, then this is a great option for you. But if you're working in another environment where you need to adjust that color temperature, the bicolor is a great option because you can go from 2800 degrees Kelvin all the way up to 6500 degrees Kelvin. Now there is a little bit of a trade-off going with the bicolor, and that is that at 5600 degrees compared to the straight daylight version, it has a little bit less power. And that's just because it's mixing those two color temperatures on the chip, so you lose a little bit. It's not a massive difference, but just be aware, you do get the added benefit of being able to adjust the color temperature, but you do lose a little bit of power. So hopefully that makes your decision a little bit easier. Like I said before, everything else is going to be the same with these lights. So let's take a closer look what's inside the box right now. Okay, let's take a look what's inside the box. And as I mentioned before, all these pieces are the same in both versions of the light. Right on the top here, we have our manual and then our power cable. It's got a nice Godox Velcro strap there if you're trying to repack that. You can take the styrofoam out, and inside you're going to find the actual light. When you pull this out, just kind of tilt it up. It's tucked into the reflector there. So pull that out, and we've got our reflector, and then our power brick right here. And pay attention to these two pieces here. There's a little strap tucked into the styrofoam there. That's to attach the power brick to a stand if you want. And then also in here we have our little metal safety cable. So those are all the pieces inside the box. Let's take a look at how we put them all together. The first thing you're going to notice about the LA200 is just how small it is. You can see it's about half the size of a normal 200 watt light, and its diameter is also a lot smaller. I could take 4 or 5 of these, put them in our traveler bag, and easily take those onto location. Whereas I can't even fit one normal 200 watt light because they're just too long. So one of the things you're also going to notice, this is a composite body on here. It's not metal, so that's one of the places that they do save. But honestly, if you've used LEDs before and you're not really, in commercial use for them, you're not banging them around and moving set to set all the time, then this really isn't going to be an issue for you. It saves you a little bit of money, and that's one of the ways they do it. On the front here, we still have our Bowens mount, which is really nice. We can add any Bowens modifier to this, and we have our protective cover on there. On the back, we've got a nice handle. This bracket is really nice. It's a stepless design, so it's not going to click into place, which a lot of people don't like. So you can lock that. You can also move the handle out of the way, which I'll show you in a minute. And it's just really simple out the back here. We have 2 dials here and 2 buttons, so it's really easy to use. And it is still fan cooled. We have cooling ports all over the top, all over the bottom, so this is not going to overheat. It's not excessively loud either, which you might expect in a less expensive LED like this, but it's actually quite good in the decibel rating. So before we do anything, I just want to stress that this cover needs to come off. This is just a protective cover designed when you're traveling or you have it in your bag to protect the COB chip here. If you turn this on with this cover on, you are going to melt it very quickly because it is so close to the COB chip. So just like any other Godox light, we just have our release switch here. Pull that back, give it a quarter turn, and this is going to come right off. So same thing, we have the 3 prongs here, which line up right here, and we just line that up, quarter turn to put it back on. So those are all the exterior features. Let's see how we put this onto a stand. Before we mount this light, let me install this power brick onto the light stand. Now you can just leave this on the floor if you want. It's got a long cable here that is going to extend up to the actual light. But if you want to keep it nice and clean, then you can use the included strap here. And it's just a rubber strap, kind of just like a belt. You have these different openings here. So essentially all we're going to do is wrap this around the actual power brick. And we want this opening because we have our other cable coming from the wall plugging in here. We want that facing down. So normally I would put this on the base of the stand, but just so you guys can see it, I'll put it right here. And essentially all you're going to do is just wrap that around, find the hole that is the right tension for it. And this is a little bit loose here, but you're just going to wrap it around like that and then secure it in place. And those little notches, when they're new, it's a little bit difficult to get into it. So once you set it, it'll be a little bit easier for you. Okay, let's put the light on the light stand. Again, I'm going to pop off that cover before I do anything so I don't forget. Loosen this off and just back off this thumb screw here. So this will fit to any Strobepro stand or any stand that has just a standard spigot. Pop that right on. Just loosen it till it drops in and tighten that down. Once you have that tightened, you can adjust it with the other handle here, put it into position wherever you want. If you find that the handle you don't want pointing down, there is a button kind of, you just push it and you can readjust the handle as necessary. But for our case, we'll put it level here. And now what we can do is plug in the main connection here. So it's just a 3-prong and you have a little release there. So just line that up and you can see that it's on the side. Just put it in like that. It's going to click in and we need to connect the other side of that power brick. But to remove that, you just push the button here. It's going to pull out. So really easy. So again, just take your other end of your power cable, it plugs into the other end of the brick and plug that into the wall and then we're ready to turn it on. We do have our steel tether here. I'm not sure really why Godox included this in here because it is such a lightweight light that you probably aren't going to fall off a stand with it. But if you were mounting this upside down from a ceiling mount or something and you wanted just to be extra secure, all you do, there's a little slide on here. So if you're wondering how to connect it, the slide goes up and then it's threaded on the other end. So then you just screw them together. So you could technically just put it around the handle if you wanted, or if you just wanted to mount it around the screw here or the handle, whatever, tighten it in, then you've got a little added security, but chances are you probably don't need to use this. Now I already showed you the Bowens mount, and to mount any modifier, it's just the same way as that cover. We have our 3 prongs here, so whether it's this reflector, a beauty dish, softbox, octabox, whatever it is, as long as it has a Bowens mount, it will fit on here. So all you're going to do is just line that up, and I can't see where I'm going right now, so I would just turn that till I feel it go in flush. Once it's in flush, give it a 1/4 turn and it's going to click in. And again, to remove it, we're just going to use that slide switch again and 1/4 turn the other way. I wanted to point out something about the reflectors here. So this is our reflector that comes with the light. And these are really designed to be a projection reflector. So you can see that it's quite narrow and it's designed to really push the maximum amount of light the furthest distance possible. So these are quite hard reflectors. Now we have an umbrella mount underneath, and if you do plan on using this umbrella mount, you need to pay attention that you can't use it with the included reflector. If you want to use a reflector with your umbrella, what you need is the AD-R6 reflector here. This is the same one that is used on the MS300 or the AD600 manual version, not the Pro version. And the reason is that it has a cutout right here for the umbrella shaft to pass through, whereas our standard reflector that comes with it does not have that pass through. So I'll just set that down, and what we want to do is line this cutout up with the umbrella slot on the bottom. So I can do that, line that up. Then I'm going to take my umbrella, and when these are new, they're quite stiff to put into that slot. So when I run that through, Let's see if I can see where I'm going here. I'm going to just slide it and kind of, you want to push that up a little bit. And it just has a spring clip on there. And as I push it up, it's going to slide through. And then you can control your distance going back and forth. There's no screw or anything that you have to lock down. It just slides in like that. The benefit of having the reflector with an umbrella is that it projects the light into the reflector and then gives you the maximum amount of coverage coming back out. If you use it without the reflector, which you can do, just be aware you're going to lose a lot of light out the side because you're not able to project that light into the actual modifier. So those are just a couple notes about using a reflector and an umbrella with the Litemons LA200. One of the things when you're purchasing a new LED that you want to be aware of is fan noise. And typically in the industry, the more expensive the light is, the quieter the fans are, and the less expensive, the noisier they get. Well, with this LA200, it's kind of the exception. This has an extremely quiet fan for the price of this light, and I find it completely usable in any situation. So I'm going to put this on here, and you can just hear some unedited audio with that fan running. The nice thing is this fan does not spool up, so it doesn't get louder or quieter depending on the temperature. It just stays consistent. So let me just be quiet here and you can hear. I'll put my mic right by it. And you can really barely notice that. So that's really unique for a light of this price. Normally you'd be trying to fix that in post and in Premiere, adding noise filters and everything, trying to get a buzz or a hum out. This is extremely quiet, and really you probably don't have to do any audio editing for this light. So just an extra feature that you might want to know about for the audio. We are ready to turn this light on, and we have our power switch over here on the right. So just flip it on, and it's really easy to control. This dial over on our right, which says dim, that controls our brightness. So all I do, turn that, and we're going to overexpose the camera there, but all the way up to 100%, and we can go all the way down on this light to 1% and then to off, so 0 there. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but that's actually a really useful feature in an LED, and it's normally only found on really high-end lights on the Godox line. Because the chipset normally on less expensive lights can only go down to 10%, some of them even 25%. So the benefit is with this Litemons going all the way down, you can dial into some really low powers to use wide open apertures if you need to. Now this dial over here, which says CCT/FX, that's our color temperature and our special effects. But in our color temperature mode, which is our main mode we'll be using here, I would just take this dial and I can dial it all the way up to 6,500 degrees Kelvin, so a really blue light, and I can go the other way all the way down to 2,800 degrees, and you'll see that really warming that light up. So if you're trying to match some ambient light, say there's some lamps or something in the room, or maybe you're in a commercial office and you need to dial that up and match those fluorescent lights, then you can do that. And that's the benefit of the bicolor. Now we're only on 10% here because we don't want to overexpose, but this light has tons of power. One of the trade-offs which I mentioned before with the bicolor version and the daylight color version is that on the bicolor, you lose a little bit of power at the 5600 range. So if I was to dial this up to the same as the daylight version at 5600 there, at the same power level compared to the daylight, it's going to be a little bit less power, but you do get the bicolor adjustability. So that's a trade-off that you'll have to decide if it's worth it for you and which version to purchase from there. Really, we only have 2 buttons on here. I'm going to go right into the special effects now, and we access that by just pushing this FX button. Let's enter special effects mode here, and again, just push this FX button, and right away we are going to enter into whatever effect we had set previously. It just happens to be on number 1 right now. And we can adjust the power in this effect, so we can bring it up to whatever we want. We're just going to leave it at 10% here so we don't overexpose. But to change the special effect, I just take the dial now and I can go through them. So I had like a pulsing kind of daylight version there. I don't know what these are called. You can look in the manual. They probably all have special names. But there's number 3, number 4. It's supposed to simulate if you're watching TV. We've got like lightning storm effects in here. But what I want to get to is the end ones here. This is a TV effect actually. Because we are using the daylight version or the bicolor version, there's a couple effects right here starting at number 9 that you can see, like on my hand here, they're using the warm color temperature, which is not available in the daylight version. So just be aware of that. Both versions are going to have a different number of effects. You get a few more here in the bicolor. So I can go all the way to number 11. This is number 10. It's supposed to simulate like a candle or a fire. And then number 11, I believe, is supposed to simulate fireworks. So there's just a quick overview of all those different effects. If you're doing a special project, you might find them useful. Otherwise, we can just click the FX button again, and that's going to go back into our main control mode, which is likely where you're going to use this light the majority of the time. From there, we just have to take a look at this Bluetooth button here, and that's a nice way that we can control this light directly from our phone. So let's see how we connect that now. A great feature of this light is the ability to control it from the Godox app, and we have our Bluetooth button here, and you can see the little symbol on the screen which indicates that Bluetooth is on. Now, if you want to see the MAC address of this, you're going to push it once and you see that number and letter combination that pops up there. That's going to help you identify this light. So each light will have its own unique identifier. So if you have 4 lights, you're setting up like a home YouTube studio or something, then that's just going to help you locate where these are when you're adding them to the app. So you'll see that disappears from there. If you need to reset this light, so say you've screwed something up in the app and you can't add this light for whatever reason, what you need to do is hold the Bluetooth button, and you're going to hold that for about 3 seconds. You'll see it start flashing there, and that means that we've reset that light now, and so it should connect back to the app really easily. So it's always a good idea, unless it's new, you shouldn't need to reset that, but if you're having any trouble, just reset and then it should go back into the app. So speaking of the app, let's see how we actually connect that now. So I have the Godox Light app opened up here on my iPhone, and you want to make sure that it's the Godox Light app. There's a number of different apps from Godox, so just make sure it's this one. You can get it for iPhone or for Android. So just download whichever version you need. You can see here that I've created a studio, and we're going to need to do that. You can click this plus button and you can create your own studio here. I've already got one set up for Strobepro, and this is nice if you have multiple setups that you kind of commonly do. You can set different studios. Maybe there's one for your basement, there's one for your office, or whatever kind of shooting you're doing. So once I open the Strobepro Studio, I need to add a light, and I can do that up here in the top right-hand corner. And we can see that there's actually 2 lights showing up. There's another one from our showroom here at the store, but the one that we are looking for is the LA200. We just have one of those. So we're going to select that. You'll see the check mark there, and then just click confirm at the bottom. That's now trying to communicate with the light, and it takes 30 seconds sometimes to add that. You see it disappear there, and now we have added that into our studio. So from there, what I can do is actually click on the light. So I just click that directly there, and that's going to open up our control right away. So from here, we can go and just move this to the right. So you see that it goes all the way to 8500. This app is used for other Godox lights that can go that far, but we know ours only goes to 6800 degrees. So once I get past that, it's not going to cool that off anymore. And then same on the other end, we can go all the way down to 25, but ours only goes to 28. So just keep that in mind. You can still just bring it down if you want to hit the maximum and minimums. but it's easy to set the actual temperature there. If we want to go back to 5600, we can do it like that. Now, pay attention if you don't have a bicolor light and you're wondering why yours isn't adjusting from there. That's because you don't have that feature. You just have daylight. So it's going to be adjusted only in daylight. We have the power slider down here, which is really convenient. So we can go all the way from 0 all the way up to 100. Bring that back down. So that's just a really quick way to adjust the power on them. And this here is a color temperature shift. This light does not feature that, so just leave that on 0. It doesn't really matter if you move it because it's not going to do anything on this light. Now, if you have the daylight version, that's all you'll be able to do on this is just adjust the power up and down. But you also have special effects, which we'll go to in the other mode here. So again, I just click that top button. So we have our CCT on the left, and then we have our special effects on the right. Now here's where you can see what all of these special effects are. Now, not every special effect is going to be compatible with this light. So if you click on one and it doesn't do anything, like this music one, for example, it's just going to stay on that original effect that I had. So you can go through the manual and actually see which ones you do have. I'll just go to the TV one here. We have a speed setting, so you can speed the special effect up from 1 to 3 down here at the bottom. So we have 1, 2, and then 3. That just increases or decreases the frequency of that effect repeating. So we'll just leave it on 1 there. And again, our power at the bottom, and we can slide that up and down, and that will affect the power of the effect. If I want to go back and get out of that mode, I just go there, click CCT again, and again, we can control our power and everything right from this mode. Now, we do have a full video on this app, so we'll link that in the description and up above here so you can see that. But really, that's all there is to this app. You can add multiple lights to it, so I can click, let's click on the top here, and then we can go back to our device list at the bottom left. And then we would have all our different lights listed that we had. If you want to put them on individual groups, you can add groups. There's lots of other things you can do. You can save your studio and your setup there so that when you turn something on, all the lights go to their set powers that you had before. But that's just a quick overview of how to control the LA series with the Godox app. So there you have it. That's everything you need to know about the Litemons LA200. We have the daylight version and the bicolor adjustable version. Again, you can see how small these are. So if you're tired of dragging big, heavy LED lights that are 2-3 times the size of this, then it's definitely an option that you might want to consider. Yes, it's not a metal body, but for 90% of users, that really doesn't matter. It's a high density composite material, plastic, so you're still going to get tons of extended life out of this. You've also got Bluetooth on here, so you can still connect it to the Godox app. We have special effects on there, and we don't have a big ballast. We just have that little control box, so you're saving a ton of space, whereas most other 200-watt lights are going to have a huge ballast that you have to connect and deal with all that. So again, if you're looking to save a little bit of money, you want a high-performing light at a compact size, then the Litemons series is definitely something that you want to check out. So check out all the options at strobepro.com, and until next time, I'm Jesse, and enjoy creating.